Hey, that's us live, Jim. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How are you? Bit of a cold,
Good,
but
good. Yeah,
fighting.
you're not sounding great.
No, bit nasal.
Bit nasal. Well, hopefully you'll be able to hear Jim, everyone. He's a bit nasally. Welcome to our, well, it's just really a dram session, isn't it, Jim? That's what we have once a month.
Yeah,
We have a,
once
we
in
have a few drams together. So, sorry, this is about, what is it, a fortnight late?
a little bit. Aye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I had a bit of a dodgy tummy 2 weeks ago and we couldn't do it. And Jim's not great now, but he's less of a wimp than I am, so he's toughed it out. I
Fortunate.
went to my bed. But so what are we doing tonight then, Jim? We're doing something quite different, aren't we?
We are. So rather than sort of stick with our flagship product, we're actually, and one of your favorites is we're going with the bourbon cask, and we're tasting the bourbon cask Outlaw versus a couple of bourbons and a rye whiskey. Now, obviously, the rye whiskey is not like for like, but
Yeah.
let's say a couple that we've picked, we may have some of those casks available like now or in the future. So,
Of the products that we're going to drink. Well, see,
possibly.
my bottle's a bit more fuller than yours, but then you were really kind and gave me a sample, so I didn't have to open my bottle, so I can keep it. But that looks like you and Rachel have been knocking that one back.
A little bit. We actually had Pat, my business partner, over because
All right.
he was over for a quick flash visit because his mum sadly passed away. She just
All right.
and then his half brother had a wedding, so they were, and he'd missed his dad's funeral, so it was kind of a not 4 weddings and a funeral, but it was all family based. So he managed to get to the UK. He came up here quickly because he'd not been up here really
Right.
because of lockdown and so on. He left just as
Yeah.
we were getting locked down in February of 2020. So
Okay.
he'd not even seen spirit go in casks.
So you got to look and a touch of the casks and saw the warehouse and everything.
Yeah. So, but the reason why I say that now is because this one's his favorite. So I wouldn't say it's all Patrick's doing, but I can definitely lay some blame on him.
Did he take some back with him as well?
Yeah, but you can only fly with a couple bottles. But yeah, he's taken a couple back just for gifts and presents and stuff.
Right.
That's good.
Good. Well, it's a lovely looking label. When it's sitting, next to the flagship, and then sitting with the Isla. It's lovely having the different colours in the labels, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we went when we were designing it and going through it. We were trying to come up with colours that actually you would associate. So the bourbon, you came up with very much the rum colour, but also sometimes you get that colour out of the bourbon wood. When you've got the wet bourbon wood and you see the sort of the vanilla oak in there, and then you get the spirit in. That's the sort of colour we associate with it. Yeah,
excellent. So, are we going to have a bourbon first, or are we going straight in for the special release?
Well, seeing as it's one of your favorites, I thought we might go with the bourbon release first, and you can bless it with your.
That would be nice because bourbons are not my favorite drams. So I think I'll start with the bourbon expression and finish with that as well, and sandwich the bourbons in there. Yeah. So, but I was nosing all the bourbons just before we came on, Jim, and they were feeling really heavy and thick compared to this.
Yeah,
which is so fresh and light. I just love it. Which is strange, because I'm not keen on bourbon, but I like this out of the bourbon cask. I think it's obviously the more of an impact to the American oak rather than the bourbon in soak.
Yeah.
So lovely.
But is it even like single malts? Your favorite single malts are bourbon cask, or you're not a sherry cask particular favorite?
Well, I used to be a sherry cask aficionado. I used to be a Mortlach man when I got it cheap with Diageo. Right. But then my palate changed, and I really do love ex-bourbon casks. But I'm starting to move back a little bit to ex-sherry. I like a Tamdhu now.
Right.
But my go-to drams would be ex-bourbon casks. So a
Right.
Glenmorangie, a Balblair, some of the Gordon and MacPhail limited editions. You know, like I've got a couple of Tormores there that
Okay.
are
Yeah.
out of bourbon casks.
Yeah.
So it is American oak, but ex-bourbon casks would be my go-to whiskey.
Mm.
So that's probably why I like this one so much.
Because I was up with the fellas at the cooperage, and we were checking out some new casks. And I'm not going to
Right.
give all of it away, but there was one that was very interesting, which was it was a bourbon cask, but it was European oak.
Okay.
So
Right. Okay. But is that legal?
pass. I don't know, but it was, and it was from, obviously the wood had come from Europe, but it had been
Right.
used by an American distillery.
Okay, because I know if it's for bourbon, it's got to be virgin oak and it's got to
Yeah.
be charred.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could be wrong because I quite often am, I thought it had to be American oak, but maybe the legislation doesn't specify that. If there's any bourbon experts on tonight, tell us.
Phone a friend.
All right, that's interesting because I've never heard of that, Jim.
No. So it was interesting. And then, another one that we'll be doing and trying out is it's American oak, but it's the Cabernet Sauvignon cask.
All right, nice.
So you can imagine you've got the blend then of the creamy and the sort of vanilla, the oaky notes that you get from American oak, but you've also then got, not the strength that you have with the spirit alcohol, but you still have wine going through for a number of years through the wood. So it won't be as strong as a sherry or something like that. But again,
well, it's going to be something different, isn't it? It'll be nice to get the samples and that and see how it goes.
Right. So there's a little hint of what you might see.
Yeah, Slange.
Flange.
Got a lovely nose, isn't it? I do like that. I mean, you'll remember when you sent me the samples. There was a couple of those bourbon casks that just really stood out. It's that. It must be the American oak. It's that sort of vanilla, but it's almost like I can't describe it. A sort of custardy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Vanilla kind of aroma and flavor.
See, I'm showing up my history here a bit. I'm getting clotted cream, or like
clotted cream. Well, that's your part of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, clotted cream fudge.
Right. Okay.
You're going down that route of a very rich dessert, so you do get a slightly sugary flavor, but it's the sort of creaminess. Like with if you get a very rich custard made from scratch, all the eggs and stuff in it. It's a very smooth, rich dessert. But yeah. Because I get a little on the nose, when you take that first sip and you go back and smell it again, it's straight back into like a creme brulee.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
With a hint of orange.
I don't get the orange so much on the nose, but on the taste buds, it's just there on the side.
Palate.
Yeah.
A little bit of citrus. But that's a lovely sipping whiskey. I won't need any of this, Jim. For this one. I've got this just in case. I'm not so hot on the bourbons, but definitely not with a rum.
If you need to parachute in a bit of support.
Just adding a few different congeners there. No, I didn't finish that with my dinner, so I took it through. Not lovely. I do prefer that to the flagship, I have to say, and I prefer that to the Isla one as well. A bit of Marmite there with the Isla one, me and you. But that's my favourite, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, good.
Although, not to give away any secrets, something coming along in January, February may kind of just knock these all out of the park.
Could be, yeah. We're working on that right now. So,
but the punters will have to wait and see that. We've had a few samples.
Yeah, very much. And obviously those samples were from August as well. I didn't realize how far back they were. So
yeah. So will you be doing another bourbon? Because this says it's bourbon 2021. Will you be doing a 2022 bourbon?
More than likely, yeah. But it'll be. I'm not sure if we'll go with the same cast again, or because we've got a couple different ones now. So again, maybe some of the bourbons that I've got here, that yeah, exactly. So the actual distilleries themselves, we've got some of those casts just to see how it's moving, but we've always there's always one that's moved more so than others, and that's the one we bottled this time.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You put the same rum into all these casks, and within months we're seeing differences. I mean, I remember saying to you at the start of the project, it's going to be 12, 18 months before you see anything. And we were seeing it after 3 or 4, weren't we?
Aye. I mean, you were horrified by when we put it in the Ardbeg cast to begin with.
I really couldn't. I was wondering, how are we going to blend this away? Without pouring it down the drain. How are we going to blend this out without anybody tasting it?
It's going to be Jim's cask. He's going to sit there in the warehouse just like hovering like a goblin on the car.
But then over time, it was fine.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because so we've got rum in a whiskey ton. A sherry ton right now. So it's obviously a much bigger cask. And speaking to a few other people as well as yourself, they're saying, well, with those, actually, it could be 2 or 3 years before it's really. Now, that's mainly because, the big surface area and the volume of the liquid, it's really got to take time to bond really with each other.
Yeah, but there was colour there almost straight away.
Aye, I know.
That was a surprise as well.
But it's not just a little bit of colour either. It was
it's noticeable, isn't it? Very quickly. Yeah.
So no, for us it's been a great journey because we actually started off the business plan with thinking, well, 3 to 4 years, and then actually within 9 months, it's like, oh no, we've actually got something here.
Yeah, and there's some samples there as well that I'm kind of thinking you're gonna have to get that out of the cask soon. Put it into a bit more of a tired cask, or put it back into a plastic container, because there seems to be a lot of wood action going on there. So it's a fascinating process, fascinating project, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great, and I can only assume it's similar to people who work in the sort of the higher end food industry where they're actually creating something. So everything, it's not just a tactile thing where you're presenting something to the client or the customer or to people you care about. It's also that you can smell it, the texture of it, and this is fairly similar because you can go into the sections of the warehouse and when you're in the Isla section, when you're in the bourbon section.
It's amazing the smells coming off. Anyway, talking of bourbons, Jim, I can't put this off any longer.
Right.
What are we going for first?
We're going to go with Blanton's. So this is the Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Obviously, they've got quite a horse racing ethos with the company. They're thought of as one of the higher end ones.
And this has got rye in it instead of wheat.
Yeah, it's
got some rye in it anyway.
Yeah, it's got some rye in it. So this is bottled. The whiskey dumped. Not very nice way to say it. Is in May 2018, and this is off of bottle number 1910, on Rick number 56.
Yeah, it's a single barrel, isn't it?
Yeah. 51.5.
Yeah, that's not a bad nose actually. It's a little bit spicy, and it's got that. For me, it's got that really strong sort of, not artificial flavor, but kind of polishy, varnishy paint
Yeah.
kind of aroma that I find quite strong in bourbons.
Mm. Is that
It's
just
a
the wood?
beautiful colour.
Is that
Sorry?
just the wood? Is that just the wood action then? Like getting those
Well,
notes?
I think it's the rye and the corn as well,
I'm getting a bit of licorice off that.
right? I'm really struggling to get past that strong bourbon kind of sweetness that I get.
Mm.
But it's not unpleasant, which
I'm getting,
is a good comment from me for bourbon. It's not unpleasant.
but I've got like pear drops or keto. You know, like in the old sweet shops, you get the boiled
Aye,
sweet. So you get the.
it is sweet, right?
Yeah. Oh, a lot more.
That's not bad actually.
There's a lot more pear drops on the taste on that one, eh?
Wow, that is very creamy and almost silky.
Mm.
Very oily, thick mouthfeel. That's really quite pleasant in the mouth. And then it's got that sort of bourbony, a bit of spiciness for the rye. But it's really quite toffee to finish. Really strong toffee for me.
Yeah, I'm getting like the caramel or the old like you know, the old Highland
Yeah.
toffee bars.
Well, that's, the guys at the Really Good Whiskey Company should be watching this. I really quite like that one.
Mm.
Every bourbon they've given me, I haven't liked. That's really quite pleasant. I don't know if I'd want to drink it all night. It's still
No,
not a Scotch, but
it's also not a sweetly sort of woody flavor and then it disappears. I've still got like it comes back the pear drops. You know.
Yeah, there's that wood notes, but it's that lovely toffee finish. That's quite pleasant,
Mm.
and you can feel it. That you can feel the 51%, but it's not burning.
Yeah.
No, that's all right for a bourbon actually, and I didn't think I was going to like that because that one uses rye, and I'm really not keen on rye whiskies. I'm being very negative tonight. I thought I'd prefer the ones that used wheat for one of the other cereals, as well as the corn. But that's a rye one. I don't think there's not as much rye in that as there is in one that's going to calm. No, that's okay.
Yeah, so this is, what's it say? Gold edition. No, it's not giving me the percentage. Or like it's not giving me the corn to.
No, it won't. I mean, it's got to have at least 51% corn, 51% maize for it to be a bourbon. But I did look up the splurge, and it said it had rye in it as one of the secondary grains.
Okay.
But I don't think that's, it's definitely not 49% rye.
No. That's
the rum is very orangey after that in comparison.
Oh, I just get a big waft of creme brulee and cream.
Lovely. That bourbon was not as strong in vanilla as I thought it was going to be. Well, that's a good start to Jim. Quite like that one.
Good.
That was a Blanton's Gold.
That was Blanton's Gold, yeah, the gold edition.
Tick that off my list. That was good. What are we going to have next?
Shall we go with the Johnny Fitzgerald? 92.
Johnny Fitzgerald.
Larceny, 1870.
Right, okay. A little bit lighter, is it? Maybe. Oh, there's not a lot on the nose compared to that. That must be the extra rye in it.
Yeah, I'm getting.
That's really quite flat compared to the first one.
I'm getting like aniseed. Oh, actually, yeah.
I can get the sort of wood off it, sort of oakiness.
Yeah, this one's 46%, so it's not like a massive drop. It's not like they're 10%.
Not a huge drop, no.
Yeah,
It's got fruity, and
it's still the
there's
same.
that just at the back of the nose. There's that polish and varnish coming in, but not nearly as strong as the first one. I think that must be the rye influence on me, because there's no rye in this one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not as much going on there.
I'm getting pear drops. So like when you were allowed to amazingly do A-level chemistry and produce all sorts of crazy explosive hydrocarbons in the lab, we actually would make ketones, which gives you the pear drop smell.
Right.
So what I'm getting is on the end of that is the pear drops, like the boiled sweet and the.
Now that smells better than it tastes. I've just tasted it, and there's almost nothing there. Compared to the first one, it is really quite thin and weak. Not a lot going on at all there, is there?
Bit of spice on the tongue, but
it's not got that thick, oily mouthfeel that the first. I wonder if that's just the different type of cereals that's used in the mash bill.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I know what you mean. This one,
that's a bit of a nothingness compared to the Blantons, I'm afraid to say. Sorry, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Aye. It does it does taste like it's a bit light. I mean, obviously there's a difference in the price. The Blantons is actually quite a bit up on this one.
Well, it's the whole thickness, boldness, mouthfeel. There's just not as much there as there was in the first one.
No. Especially like you mentioned, it's oily. For me, I get that film across the mouth, and it just seems to coat the whole mouth.
There's a real coating in that Blanton's. Go back to it.
Yeah.
See, that's got a real thickness to it. You can almost chew that one. You know what I mean? Really thick in your mouth.
Wow.
That's growing on me, that one.
That's right. I mean, it's almost like you get a bit of, is it aniseed or licorice? And then it's
possibly.
And then pear drops and stuff. But yeah, I'm liking that Blanton's actually.
Yeah, that's nice. That's sweeter for me this time, comparing it to the Fitzgerald's, the Larceny. That's very pleasant. Yeah. Oh well. Rinse out the old mouth. I might have to put some of this in John Fitzgerald.
I'm just going back to the bourbon cask.
Shall we have another little bit of the rum? Now, see, that's got more of a mouth feel than the Larceny. Not as much as the Blantons, but that's more of a coating and a nicer mouthfeel, a bit more oily.
Yeah, it hasn't got. I mean, the difference there is, well, it's about the same actually. Well, no, this is actually lighter than all of them because it's 43%.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one's 50. Well, the Blanton's is 51.5, and the Larceny is 46.
Yeah.
But what I get there is more. Yeah, it's not the coating in the mouth. It doesn't feel quite as oily or as viscous.
No.
But you get the flavor coming through after more.
Yeah.
And then you get the lingering vanilla notes.
That looks quite thick, the Blantons. It's taking ages to develop the legs. Anyway. That's my favourite so far out of the two.
Okay.
Blantons.
And then we'll go for I think most people have seen this one. Listen, we can get anywhere in any supermarket.
Maker's Mark.
Bourbon straight whiskey.
So handmade, this is at least 51% corn, at least 2-year-old matured for it to be called straight, isn't it?
To be honest, I'm actually not up on the old legislation with it.
Yeah, straight bourbon's got to be 2. And if it is bourbon, it's got to have at least 51% corn or maize in the mash bill.
They're saying here on the side, like each individual batch is less than 19 barrels.
How precise?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, they must be doing about 6 batches a day then.
To get it, because it's not a. And do they still do the individual waxing on the top?
Yeah. But it's a screw cap.
But then they put a wax seal on it, don't they?
Yeah. So you've still got like, but it's just a screw cap. Oh, no.
All right. So you just have to cut the wax there.
Yeah. It's got like a tab on it just to peel it off like a.
All right.
But yeah.
Now that's a bit less bourbony on the nose, not so much polish and varnish. Not so much on the nose, full stop, to be honest.
Mm.
So is this, I don't like using the term, is this one of your kind of bog standard, run-of-the-mill kind of bourbons, is it? I'm not hot on my bourbons, you see.
Yeah, I mean, it is one that you see in the bar, but it's at the higher end of the price range. But
okay.
that would be that you'd go into, you'd see up there, you'd see your Jim Beams, you'd see your Jack Daniels, and Maker's Mark would be just a little bit further, you know. But
right.
Again, it's one of these things where I've used it quite a lot in barbecuing and cooking, but it's, you know, to be honest, the journey with rum, I'm looking at other spirits just out of interest. It's not something I've ever gone through with any sort of got any religious sort of target on looking at something specifically and almost becoming an absolute specialist in one. And the other bit is that some of these rum, like Blanton's, I saw it around about a year ago on other people talking about specialist, well, not whiskey, but like looking at bourbons and so on. And I was interested purely on a casks perspective.
Right.
But for the Blantons, I was really struggling to get hold of it. And it's one of these, you're digging for it. But whereas Maker's Mark, you can pick up at Tesco's.
Get anywhere. Right. Okay.
The larceny you couldn't.
Ooh. Oh.
Bit cough syrupy, isn't it?
There's some off note there that I really don't like. It's like a burnt rubber or something. Not as bad as that other bourbon you gave me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I have to say. That was rotten. But this one, no.
No, I mean,
I don't like that.
I've tried some Canadian whiskies and they've been so sugary sweet because in Canada they're, you know, by legal legislation they're able to put in maple syrup in it.
You can add up to 9%, isn't it, of anything else?
Right, which I was like blown away by because it was like, really? But I mean, how sweet do your tooth have to be to then add like sugar into a whiskey? You know, it's like, would you like some tea with your sugar? So when you see people and they're like grinding the sugar in their cup of tea or something like that.
You should try a coffee if you go to India, Jim. It's like 5 spoons you get in your coffee.
Oof. It'd take me a week to come down, I think.
Horrendous.
But
I really don't like that. There's an off note immediately, but it disappears. But that first rubbery note, not nice at all. Maybe you're not getting it, but it's just.
To be honest,
I didn't get it on the nose.
No, I'm just checking it to see because.
I'll give it another go.
It's kind of gone down the scale. Like if Blanton's first, then the Larceny, then the Maker's Mark.
No.
You know, there is a price drop with them.
Right.
and there's also an availability difference. But
I know. Oh, that's still horrible. I don't know what that is.
I'm just getting like a real big licorice kick on it.
Okay. I'll be interested to see the sort of different cereals, if you can find out the mash bills on these, and then look at the different sort of processing. I think was Maker's Mark the one that spoke about having a really old yeast.
Ooh.
They've got their own yeast strain from like 140, 150 years ago. I know that's one of the things that bourbon suppliers like. It's unlike Scots; they have their own kind of yeast or strains of yeast. But over in Scotland, we kind of use the same one.
Right.
So
Okay.
there was one of them. Was it Maker's Mark had a really old yeast strain? But no, there's something in that. It just doesn't do it for me. There we go. I'm doing a online course at the moment teaching for the Edinburgh Whisky Academy, and there's a lot of guys in the States on this current course.
All right.
There's a couple of guys on there that are kind of like bourbon experts. So maybe ask them about these, which is the best.
Definitely.
But no,
well.
you can have that.
Keep it.
Maker's Mark. I'll give you can put your Maker's Mark along with what was that called? Watershed or whatever it was. That was. I should have known. I should have known when you said take a video of yourself when you taste this bourbon. I should have known it was going to be special,
different.
Yeah.
Right. So the last one of the evening.
Yes.
Before we go back to the Outlaw or the Bourbon special release. So it's not, and we might have called it the Bourbon session or whatever, but this is a straight rye whiskey, again, mainly because for me, it's also experimentation on, and I take notes on when we're going through these, just so that at a later date, the casks that we have used or might possibly use, that we can go back and just check to see, because you get an idea of what a certain spirit behaves in this cask. You also know how the rum behaves in other casks, and then that's how we can really hit a consistency and a quality that we can continue to do. So, I mean, other rye whiskey casks, I've tried a few, and they're like depends on where they're from. They're not far off what a bourbon is, but you're getting a little bit of something else, maybe almost like it's not a sweet note, it's more like a savory note, but it's difficult to place, almost like there's a hint of pepper or seasoning in there. But then there's some others that I've tried or I've nosed, and it's like someone's taken like a whole branch of peppercorns and left it in the cask. So what you get with the spirit is like a peppercorn note.
Right. Well, I don't know if it's because I've just tasted it after Maker's Mark, but I'm really surprised at that.
Yeah.
It's got a beautiful, kind of cool, silky mouthfeel. It's like that Blanton's. I think it must be the rye. That silky, oily mouthfeel. And
see, because that's only like 42.4%. It's not like it's up in the 50s. But that's but I'm getting that licorice, but then the pear drops far more with this one.
I'm really surprised. I mean, I like that one. Because I would have said I don't like bourbon and I don't like rye. But is this old or is this more expensive, Jim?
It's a little bit, but not massively.
Right. Okay.
I'll check the numbers. I'll text you what they were before, just so I'm not like leading you astray or something.
Yeah.
But it's all available now. If you go to, well, God, how many different shops are there online nowadays? Especially with like after COVID. But you know, just even like Amazon and stuff like that. So your larceny and your maker's mark are around about the 40, 45 quid mark. The Blantons was more expensive, and the mixtures was not far off what the flagship is on the website. But
yeah, because that kind of tastes that it's of a higher quality.
Yeah.
But then again, it's all personal taste and subjective. That's my opinion, and because I like this one better, maybe I'm thinking it's a higher quality. See, that's not unpleasant. And there's a lovely vanilla, creamy toffee finish that is really quite pleasant. And I'm not getting the spicy spice of a rye. That's a really weird whiskey, that.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm getting the similar profile, slightly different, but to the Blantons.
Yeah. But Blanton's got that's stronger, it's more alcohol. But hey, that is such a surprise for me. I'm preferring the rye ones to the wheat. So my taste buds tonight are a little bit different, maybe.
Oh. That's interesting. That, I mean, I don't like, even when I worked on the rigs in the States or even in Canada.
Yeah.
It was still something where you didn't really know if you were out ever. Rarely weren't, because you're on a rig or you're in an industrial estate somewhere, and then they're shipped home. But but what happened was there was the microbrewery. People were claiming their, not heritage, but a little bit of a tradition and a bit of a social bit back. So the microbreweries really kicked off with quite some gusto in the mid 2000s, and then I think that's come on with every state or most counties having their own beer and distillery.
Right.
So it's interesting to see some of these things come back.
And I'm assuming that over in the States, in your experience, most people over there are drinking bourbons rather than drinking Scotch.
Yeah, Scotch is more exclusive, and it's in certain places where the money is, just purely because you're almost it's almost double the price here.
Right.
Because it's importing into the US.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, even though single malt or blended whiskey has been there for decades. Well, Trump put the tax up, and then I think they've taken it back down again a bit. But
yeah, but there was companies that really scored out of that, because the tariff was only for single malts.
Oh, right.
So you could export. So one of my clients was exporting across a lot of blended malt.
Right.
It didn't have the tariff. So they were selling a lot of stuff like Monkey Shoulder, which is a blended malt, and the single malt sales, because of the 25% tariff, had gone down a bit. Monkey Shoulder sales kind of went up. So winners and losers, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the whole tariff has gone now, hasn't it?
I think so, yeah. And it's one of those where you'd like to see it a bit more flat, because if someone offered you the Blantons or the on a tasting night, it'd be an interesting thing to compare with others. But it's like anything else. I used to work on the rigs in Italy, and you'd go up into the mountains in Sicily, just go for your dinner, and there'd be a big red T sign on this trattoria. You go in and they're like polishing the pump for the tenants, and you're like, really?
For the tenants?
For tenant, they had a big red tenant sign,
That must have just been for the British rig workers then.
I mean,
the Scottish rig workers. No,
but no, this was like a well
Really?
thought of trattoria in the middle of rural Sicily, and they had the big vitamin T sign outside in their local trattoria sort of restaurant. And in certain places, in certain places,
not
it's
stand tenants.
So, and it's weird. Like we go to a few places with the oil field in Italy, and like you go to a decent place, and all of a sudden they're like coveting this tenant. So you're like, really?
Right. Okay.
But
okay.
yeah.
I mean, each to their own. We shouldn't be making judgments. You know, I made a big judgment last night. I was on Facebook, and this guy had said, "Big celebration tonight." I can't remember what the occasion was, but it's huge celebration. So pushing the boat out, we're going to celebrate tonight. 2 glasses and a bottle of Red Label. You know, okay. There's my whiskey snobbery just kind of poured out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything like, but maybe for that person, that's the whiskey they like. So
it was funny as well because some of it was advertised. So South Africa, Johnny Walker Black, Dimple, and J&B was the only whiskey you could get when I was there in '97. You can get a few more now, but that's the market mainly because of scales of economy and exchange rates.
I used to like Dimple because we got it as part of our free issue back in the day when we used to get 12 bottles of whiskey every 6 months. And I used to like my dad liked a Dimple as well. You know, a beautiful bottle. That weird shaped bottle with a sort of gold mesh around the outside and everything. Yeah.
But it's one of those as well. Like when we were in Trinidad, Johnny Walker Black was still there, and a lot of people would drink Johnny Walker Black, and if it was gifted to Trinis as a present.
Yeah,
because
Johnny Walker Black, I personally think is a fantastic dram.
Yeah,
it was my go-to when I worked for Diageo. I mean, the last 7 years I've been trying loads of different whiskies, but I was never without a bottle of Black Label in the house. So, yeah.
But the Johnny Walker Black was when you were really shelling out to give it as a gift, because even then it was still real. And if you wanted to go up the colors, like green and blue, and just because of exchange rates. But
I was in Myanmar doing a job.
All right.
It was about 3 years ago, I can't remember. And it was to help them make Myanmar whiskey,
right?
Which was like just an alcohol spirit with flavors added, but never mind. I didn't complete the job. And I'd been tasting all these Myanmar whiskies that were awful. And the guy who took me over, his son was translating. And he said, after all these local whiskies, my father would like to treat you. And we're going to have a nice dram now. So he went in his bag and he took out a bottle of Johnny Walker Gold Label. Now, I really like Johnny Walker Gold. It's a lovely dram, 18 years old. Sort of Klein leashes at the heart of it. And poured them out, gave me a dram. And I had to say to the son, I don't know what you need to say to your father, but that's not Johnny Walker Gold. It was local hoochers. It was a counterfeit.
Someone had robbed him and put a different label on. Yeah.
Aye, it was awful.
No.
But so he told his dad he was really disappointed. But we went out for a meal that night, and he bought. And this is how much money they had in the restaurant. There was about 6 or 7 of us at the table. He bought a bottle of Johnny Walker Gold to have on the table. And it was gold. It was real one that time. So, but yeah. So I used to like my Johnny Walkers. Anyway, I'm gonna finish. Sorry.
Not a White Walker.
A White Walker.
They did that thing for the Game of Thrones, but it came out after the seasons had finished.
Yeah. And they also introduced a Jane Walker, remember?
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and that didn't stay around for too long because somebody really got their marketing wrong there because they said it was a Jane Walker and it was for the ladies.
Right.
Oh, whoever came up with that has made a big mistake.
Oh, it's a spirit. Anyone can enjoy it, man.
Sorry?
It's a spirit. Anyone can enjoy it.
Of course. But they thought we'll put out this whiskey and we'll call it Jane Walker. Didn't work.
Uh-oh.
Haven't seen that for a while. So tell you what, though, are you gonna go to the new Johnny Walker Centre down in Edinburgh?
I will when we go down. We've got some rugby coming up, so I'll probably head down there just to have a look at it. But is it more of a Klein Leash sort of shop then, is it? Or is it?
No, it's a real touristy thing down in Edinburgh. Klein Leash has got a Johnny Walker Centre as well, up north.
Maybe that's why I'm getting confused with it. Okay.
No, anyway, I'm. This is really orangey for me now, Jim. The bourbon expression. I think it's just because I've tasted all these bourbons. The fruitiness and the citrus is really highlighted now. Oh, that's good.
And
I noticed this in Gordon MacPhail the other day.
Yep.
So I hadn't realised, I'd forgotten. I was wearing my Outlaw hoodie. And I was wandering about town. I think Nancy had gone into TK Maxx or something. So I thought, I'm just going to wander up to Gordon MacPhail and just have a look at the whiskey. So I was wandering around and the woman said, "Oh, do you know we've got the Outlaw Rum now?" And I was thinking,
why telling me that?
That was a bit random. But of course I had on the hoodie. And they didn't have, I can't remember seeing the flagship, but I think they had the bourbon and the Isla.
It is there.
It is there. Right.
When I went in and spoke to Jack, who's the new manager there, they were still organising that back room. So for those who are listening to this sort of either now or before, the Gordon MacPhail shop in Elgin used to be kind of like a deli. So they had the food section, they had wine and beer, and then with COVID, and then thinking about their brand and how they wanted to go the way forward, they're now getting back to their roots as such of really being purveyors of the very high-end spirits. So when we were chatting about it, they took a number of cases of ours, but they're also looking to then do in the near future, because they're still really building and finishing off that shop. They're looking to do a sort of tasting room. So they're also going to look to do cigar and spirit pair ups, maybe some food at some point, but really like focus on customer and the spirits experience with or without sort of a pairing. So yeah, we'll be there in November. So watch this space for
excellent,
because we'll be there on a ticketed event in Elgin.
Excellent. Well, I'm really enjoying that one. I mean, I always have. And tasting it with those four, it's making me enjoy it a lot more. But I'm not getting a huge bourbon influence. I think it must be the American oak for me that I'm enjoying out of this one. And it's kind of softened the base rum a little bit.
What you don't get out of the Outlaw or the Flagship and others is you don't get that creme brulee. You don't get that rich dessert, the really thick cream that you get with this one. Lovely. This one to me, like you say, is that very rich custard or the creme brulee. I don't get really any orange as such. Like if I drink one of these and then I go to the Flagship, it's almost like citrus straight away.
All right. Oh, that's strange because I'm getting a fair bit of orange off this just now.
Oh, okay.
And this is a great thing about nosing and tasting. It's so subjective.
All right.
I love that.
because then when I go and if I do the Outlaw, the special editions with the flagship, I get a little bit of citrus with the Isla cask 5. But the actual flagship itself, what I get, like when you peel an orange or you do a satsuma and you get the oil and the real citrusy, I get that in abundance on the flagship. But I've never really had it on the bourbon. But I do get the rich sort of creamy dessert, custard or creme brulee and something. I get a lot of that on there now. A lot of vanilla.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, whenever you do that nosing night, it'll be fascinating to see what the guys make comparing the Isla to the bourbon to the flagship.
Aye.
You'll have half the room hating it and half the room loving it, I think.
But that's just it. It's kind of funny because even when I've been speaking to some of our international clients, you tell them the profiles, and we've done those tasting nosing cards just
with the spider diagram.
Exactly, the rose plots and the spider diagram. So we've done that, and they're like, "Oh, that's great," because our hey, there you go. Our clients, or in say New Zealand, for instance, we're chatting to ship some over there. Their client base is a complete Marmite. Some love the really bourbon style that we've just tasted and been very wine critic like about, and then others would really, really love the Isla style, where it's very bold, smoky, very rich flavors, but there's a real fight going on there between smokiness and caramel notes and vanilla, so that it's like you said before, the oak characteristics are then moving the spirit and maturing it and changing those characteristics and changing that. Even if you want to see it in 3D space on that rose plot, they're quite substantial.
Mm-hmm. No, they're 3 different products, aren't they?
Well, they're absolutely, and
from the same base rum, it's just the casks. It just shows that a cask is so important in spirit maturation.
It is, and that's why. And that's why, next time we meet, I'll show you the plans for the Outlaw HQ, which we're going in for planning permission in the next.
Brilliant. Excellent.
So once that starts, and we'll be going down the route of granite or stone wall, but lime, basically to make sure that we've got a very traditional, very similar to what we have already style building, where the casks actually have the best environment to do their magic.
Yeah, just I love the atmosphere inside a warehouse like that. It's heaven, the smell and the dust and the wood, and just one of the best places to be in it.
It's amazing, and it's like even walking around at the cooperage with Malcolm and his team, if there's a bit of warmth in the air, when you take that bung out and the gas has had that little bit of expansion, and you get that waft of like the cask's character as you're taking a noseful. And I could spend on a slightly warm day, I could spend all day just going around like.
Well, I just loved that day when you let me come up. Not the last set of samples we got, but the set before, and we just spent the morning taking the samples. It's just fantastic. Just the best place to be, isn't it?
Oh, great. But we'll have you up when we do the next filling, which will probably be March time.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because I've never seen you actually putting them in the casks. So I've seen pictures of Rachel standing on the top of the cask with it. It must have been freezing the last time you filled there, because I think she had on hat and scarf. And
it was March, so we still had snow on the floor.
Yeah, you got her out working.
Aye, yeah.
Right. Well, she had to fill her cask, hadn't she?
Oh, apparently, she'll be chaining herself to that sherry butt. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting project. To see how that comes on. Brilliant. So, what are we doing next time? Are we on whiskey next time?
We will be doing the flagship versus or with the company of whiskies that have finished some of them have finished, some of them have matured their whiskey in rum casks. So
that's going to be fun. That's going to be fascinating. And I tell you what, the next time after that, Jim, I need to give you a load of peated whiskey samples, and we can do some peaty whiskies against the Isla Express, and that'll be fascinating to do.
Exactly. And then the next one for us as well is evening of the 28th. We'll be on the Blether with the guys from the Inverurie Whiskey Shop.
That's right. What time? That's 28th October. What time's that? Is that 7 o'clock?
Yeah, I think so. But the details will come out soon from Russell and Mike. So
yeah, because we're in esteemed company. Because last week they had Mr. Charlie McLean.
Da, da, da.
Do you know who Charlie McLean is?
No.
No. Did you not see The Angel Share?
Yes.
So the whiskey expert, Rory McAllister, I think his name was in the film.
Right.
That's Charlie McLean.
Okay.
So he's a renowned whiskey aficionado, maybe you would call him.
Right. Okay.
So he does a lot of nosing and tastings. So he was on. I saw him on 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
So they obviously have quality guests.
Only the highest quality.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that'll be us on the 28th.
28th, Thursday. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So we'll put some stuff out on social media fairly soon. And then,
excellent. All right. Well, I think you should go away and make yourself a hot toddy, Jim.
I'm going to make 4 of them by the look of it. Yeah.
What, with all those? Well, I'm going to say I'm not going to finish my Coke one.
Yeah.
But I might have another sip of the Michter's. So what's it called?
It's called Michter's Single Barrel.
Single Barrel.
And it's a straight rye whiskey.
I think I'll just stick with my special release. So,
all right.
Anyway, that was awesome, Jim.
Nice one, mate. Good to chat.
So we'll say cheerio. And thanks for joining us, guys. If you've been on live, that's been great. We'll go and read all your comments now and see what you've said. And if you're watching it later, just stick your comments on anyway, and we'll get back to you. So that was good fun, Jim.
Thank you, Rick. That was good. Chat to you
awesome.
Soon.
So I will see you. Well, I'll see you on the 28th, if not before.
Right. Exactly. All right, mate.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
See ya.
Now, bye. Slange.